Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. Now, I really hope you've been listening to our podcast. As you will know, or you may not know, what we do here is we take an individual film. Me and my special guest will take an individual film and we will critique, analyze, generally have a great conversation about the film. Now, the film could be from multiple different decades or subgenres of the horror main genre, because we like to delve into lots of different things here on the program. And we want to bring you lots of different conversations about films that you probably don't hear enough about. Unfortunately, that's not what we're doing today. We are doing a movie that is really recent, as in 2025, which we don't normally do. And we are adding these to our oeuvre as we delve into these type of things. So with that, I want to bring in my guest for this episode right before we get into the nitty gritty of the title and the movie we are talking about today. And that guest is Mr. Philip Ray. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And the film we are discussing today is the 2025 film Him, from producer Jordan Peele and director Justin Tipping. I was not familiar with the director beforehand, and I still am not, but I am going to look out for him in his future endeavors. Mr. Philip, I have to know, was this a film because it was just a recent release? Did you see it in the theaters? Did you see it on television? And then tell me exactly what your impressions were of this film before we get started into the nitty gritty of it.
So with Him, I saw it in theaters. I saw the trailers and was immediately hooked about, you got Marlon Wayans, you've got a football kind of horror movie. I was immediately hooked on that. So a little bit of background for me is I played football in high school and middle school. I come from a football family of, like, my parents watch football all the time. I've seen football. I played it. Both my brothers played it. So we are a football family. So a football horror movie sounded amazing. It sounded like such a fun idea. And then you've got Jordan Peele's name attached as a producer. I mean, I was one of those few people. I was one of the many people that was originally thought that this was a Jordan Peele directed movie, and then eventually found out, no, he's producing it, but still was very interested when this came. When I saw the trailer and stuff, I was hooked. So when I saw the movie in theaters, I was one of the many people that did not like, was very disappointed with the movie. And we'll discuss more of that throughout this episode. But yeah, I was definitely disappointed with this movie.
So I unfortunately did not get to see this at the theater. I really did want to see it because I'm a big Jordan Peele fan and I am a football film fanatic. I love football movies. They're one of my favorite sports films to watch. I did not play in high school or middle school or any of that type of stuff. I kind of played it on the streets with my friends. I never had any formal football playing, but we played it on the streets. So I am very familiar with football as a sport, and I still love it more than anything. But for me, I was intrigued by the fact that it was a horror film, or it was marketed as a horror film about the sport of football. So that was a great thing. But I was never and have never been a very big Marlon Wayans fan. That's not to say that I haven't seen a couple movies I didn't like him in. He's one of those actors that, because he's done so many, like, what I like to call dumb comedies, I just don't really see him in a dramatic actor type of light. I will say that he has done a couple films that I really loved, like Requiem for a Dream. I think he was fucking phenomenal in, and a couple other movies. But this film itself, it didn't sell me on the Jordan Peele thing because I already automatically knew that he just produced it. It really sold me on the football and horror aspect, which I thought was really interesting. But for everyone listening, we're going to have an interesting conversation because, unlike Philip here, I ended up being someone who absolutely loved this film. Not in the traditional Hollywood film kind of aspect or aesthetics, but because of the filmmaking and kind of other aesthetics. I am of the group that does not always enjoy films that overly spell out everything for you. I love movies that leave a lot to interpretation. And I do believe that there is a lot of that in this film, which I do not believe that general audiences would pick up on from the trailer that they gave, because the trailer is very horror football type of a film. And you don't really get that when you watch this. It's a very odd film because it's so subtle in some of those aspects.
Yeah, so for me with Marlon Wayans and stuff, I am from the trailer, I knew he was going to be the best part of the movie, and he was. He absolutely carried this movie. So my thing with the movie is, and some of it, I guess, is my own fault from the trailer, is it makes you think it's going to go a certain way, and it doesn't. For me, I thought one factor. So the plot of the movie, for our audience listeners and stuff, is about a up and coming football player who gets basically brought to train with a kind of almost retired, kind of retiring quarterback played by Marlon Wayans. And as he gets to but on the way there, before that, he suffers a head injury that he's basically having to keep on the down low because it's kind of career threat. It's kind of like career ending. But he gets to the asylum, the compound where Marlon Wayans' character is, to be trained by him, and a lot of wackiness and hijinks and horror elements start to come to play throughout. Definitely, the movie is the kind of sport, like not like the sport itself, but the behind the scenes with the corporations and what kind of the stuff that athletes have to do to be successful, which is all great if it was done effectively. I personally do not think it was done effectively. There's a lot of things, like with the injury. I remember from the trailer, I was thinking, oh, it's going to happen like this, and we're going to see commentary about concussions, and because that's, if anyone who's ever watched anything with NFL or football, they well known about the document like concussion scandals that happen all the time, and how long that was rejected and still kind of get rejected at time. And I thought a little bit of the movie was going to break down that because our main character gets a head injury. It doesn't. They don't touch it at all, and honestly, all it served was just to really objectively, all it did was just to give excuses for jump scares and for our main character to see wacky things, which I was very disappointed about, because I thought that would have been a really interesting thing they could have talked about, and they kind of just went, no, it's just an excuse so our main character sees horror things, jump scares, and you have the question, okay, is he actually seeing it? If it's part of his concussion, which I can tell you, that's not how. This is all the movie logic of concussions, of like, concussions shouldn't make you see all the weird imagery that he sees. But again, they movified that, and that was also really disappointing and annoying for me. But
okay, so before we go on, I do want to make sure that everyone who's listening to this podcast, if you are listening to it and you have not seen the movie Him, and you do not want us to reveal a lot of the details for this film, please stop listening to us now talk, and then go back, watch the movie, and then come back, because I do not feel that I can adequately say much about this film without revealing a lot of details that are better left experienced on your own without any forethought or foreconclusions, because I went in with a very open mind seeing this until I started picking up on some parallels to other types of films. So with that, I will continue. We will continue with our
get the spoiler talks in.
Well, I do, because this one I cannot help but spoils the ending elements, because in order for me to talk about some of the stuff that happens at the beginning of the film, I have to talk about the stuff that's at the end of the film. And the reason why I ended up loving this movie is because, from my perspective, This is a movie that is an initiation perpetrated by a cult and or a folk background. That is what this film is. The moment he has a concussion, we never see who gives him the concussion. That is the moment.
No, we do in the end. They reveal it at the end, which was
it's revealed with the costume, but not necessarily who's in the costume. Like, it's all perpetrated by this group. It is a part of their initiation of this character. He has to go, the moment he has the concussion is the moment that he is initiated in this whole thing. Now, they have a much bigger and older tradition that they are practicing by the time you get to the end of the film. But all the little things that they show you from the moment he gets hit is all leading up to him being wooed and or overtaken by this cult. And I would call it a cult because it is a cult, not unlike what you would see in something like The Wicker Man or Ritual or many different folk horror films. The person who is being the victim or sacrifice doesn't know they are the victim or a sacrifice. They have to slowly be ingested into the culture before the big reveal at the end. Most of the time, those people do not come out unscathed. Or they, like in The Wicker Man, he actually gets killed by the end. But in this film, there is a big comeuppance where he actually kind of succeeds in not becoming the next victim in this long tradition of occult activity. That being said, it's also, you could look at it for the ideal that it all started from one player's ideal that he makes a deal with the devil. He's rich.
I mean, that's what it really is at the end of the day. The most thing about this movie, the main story about this movie is that idea of what are you willing to sacrifice? I mean, literally, it's a line in the movie where Marlon Wayans asks Cam, who is the main character, asks Cam, what are you willing to sacrifice to succeed? And that's what the whole movie, long story, is about, again, because he gets the brain injury and the doctors tell him, hey, you really shouldn't play anymore. Like, if you get another one, you could die. But he hides that because early on, he was indoctrined by his family, especially his dad, of, hey, you look at this guy, you need to be like him. You need to, real men make sacrifices, real men, and that is a great scene because it's very much there's a lot of religious elements to football in this, where in general, the most common joke you hear in churches is that churches we celebrate on Sunday, except if it's a big football game, then it's like, okay, we'll do it quick and then we go and watch the game. It is a well-known thing in our culture about how much we ritualize football, the sport of football, and how much there's three things: beer, God, and football. And this movie explores a little bit of those elements, especially with Cam and his childhood and stuff. They literally have a religious shrine to one of the football players and the team and stuff, which is, again, great. It is, every small snippet of this movie that has that is great. It's great. It really disappoints me personally with this, because it's like I see all the elements there of, yes, it is good to see a movie really trying to make fun of the fact that, people do treat football like it's a religion, cult. You really have to be like a cult and stuff, and and again with players and stuff. So when Cam gets his injury and stuff, and he's trying to hide, and he has to hide it because he's like, well, I want to succeed here because that's all I've been taught and stuff. That's great. And throughout the whole movie, he sees a lot of weird things going on with Isaiah, who is the person who's teaching him all this stuff. But there's a lot of weird elements that keep happening and stuff. But he's like, well, I need to do what I can to succeed and stuff. And that's all those elements on paper are great. The problem is for me is that execution with it, because a lot of it, we'll talk a lot about the ending because I have a lot of opinions about the ending, but throughout the movie and stuff, at the same time, the I'm gonna get his name wrong, but Tigrick Withers, who plays Cam,
Yeah.
he is just a blank canvas. And I get some point of the story is that he's supposed to be the blank canvas that the audience is also reacting off of the weird stuff. The problem is he stops reacting after a point. There's a moment in the story where he sees someone first he almost gets killed by someone, and then he sees Isaiah kill a person, and then that's it. There's no, like, stop seeing a moment where he starts reacting like a character and starts to just be he's just there. He's just going with the weirdness and stuff. And to a point, that doesn't make him a compelling character, especially when you get to the end where he has to make a giant choice once he gets revealed of everything. But me as an audience member watching, I didn't care about him because he had no personality. They started at the beginning with him showing stuff like, you know, he has a girlfriend, he has a mother and stuff that, like, and he's got friends and stuff. But by the time you get halfway through the movie, those elements are lost because Isaiah's like, you need to stop doing those. But because of those, he's just there. He's just witnessing everything, and just the weird stuff that happens, he just stops reacting to it, which for me is like, if the person, my surrogate character who I'm supposed to be following, is not reacting to the weirdness, then why should I react to the weirdness? Why should I care about the weirdness?
So some of what you say, I believe, is actually correct. I don't always agree with some of your interpretations, mostly because what happens is that's why I say it's an initiation. That Isaiah has to break down Cam from what he thought he was in order to become what he is. And the only way to do that is to change his perspective. He asks him very early on the difference. Where does he put football in his relation? God, football, family. He says God, family, football. That's not correct in Isaiah's way. He has to say football first. Football is number one. That means everything else has to become a sacrifice that he has to make. But at the beginning of the film, he wouldn't make that sacrifice. It's something that Isaiah has to drill into him time and time again. And those sacrifices are not just getting rid of that. It's also getting past the fact that he has to be able to sacrifice others. And when they're doing the pass off, where every time the receiver misses the ball, and
great scene, by the way.
Yeah, but he has to get to that point, because he has to get to a point. Isaiah has to make him see that it doesn't matter about anyone else if you are doing your job as the greatest football player out there, quarterback out there, because everything is under your hands. Everything is your fault. If your player misses it, it's your fault. You have to get to the point where it doesn't matter the sacrifices you make, as long as you make the correct choice, which is football first. And that's not the only scene like that, because you have lots of scenes where Isaiah is breaking them down. On the second day, when Isaiah has him out running until he passes the fuck out on the ground, and Isaiah still is out, 100%, is like, he has to push him until he can't go any further, because as a sacrifice, or as the next person in line to take his position, Isaiah needs to find someone who will make those sacrifices. Football first, then family, then God, or God, then football, as long as football is first. But you're watching this happen through the whole film. He has to be desensitized. He cannot be the same as he was at the beginning, because of everything he's experiencing, everything he's seeing, everything that he's doing in order to get like Isaiah. So at first, Isaiah is that character where you do see some of those moments where he's not sure of what he is seeing. He can't believe what he sees Isaiah doing. But there's that thing in him that he has to make football first in order to be the greatest football player, in order to be on the Savior's team to eventually replace Isaiah as the head quarterback. And he already knows the moment he gets that position, if he can't do what Isaiah tells him to do, he's not going to be the next quarterback for the Saviors. And so, yeah, you're going to see him be desensitized because that's the point. That's the point.
Yeah, the problem is I think I would have I feel like it, and I understand that. It doesn't, you don't get the, like, the problem is if Cam, like, even when Cam has, like, he's kind of a stoic character for even the first half of the story. And so, and that's a little bit on the actor, I think, on that. So by the time you get to, there has to be a better, other than just like, oh, I have a girlfriend, I have this, like, him, like, and a lot of it's because Marlon Wayans is doing such a good job that, and just in comparison, him being just so stoic and meek in comparison just does not. It's he's getting out acted a lot of the times for me. So by the time it's the idea that he's supposed to be desensitized near the end and stuff, it's like there wasn't enough of a evolution acting wise for me to even register, oh, he's just being desensitized. Because even from the beginning, like, he's just not really acting out that much. Like, he's not, I don't know, it's just I wasn't sold on him getting desensitized and stuff, because there's not much of, even at the beginning we see stuff is weird. He just kind of goes, oh, okay. And it's like, that's fine, because at the end he has to be like that. But even at the beginning, he's kind of like that. And it's like, okay, I need more phone calls, maybe it's more phone calls with the mom explaining why, or with the girlfriend of like, hey, I just saw this. Oh, why are you still there? It's like, but no, I have to. Like, there's not you don't know, like, you from what has been shown, you understand, but verbally, there's not enough of him explaining why he really is doing this, other than the one thing he was told to his dad at one point, and that was it. And that doesn't speak as a strong character for me that that we're having to follow and stuff. There's so many good, like you said, there's so many good snippets. The scene where the drill where he has to catch it, or the players get hit, the one player gets hit, is great. There's a scene later where there's so many good scenes like that. But it feels like for me, it's trying to juggle that along with also the message. It's trying to juggle too many messages, and I feel like it just doesn't properly like do it with that, because you have all of that and what you're willing to sacrifice and the deal with the devil, and then occasionally it goes, oh wait, we got to remember about the religious stuff, and that'll pop in every once in a while. But also we have to do, like, I don't know, it's just a commentary about football and in general and stuff, and it just, I don't know, it just, for me, it just doesn't juggle the themes perfectly, and I think some of it just gets dropped in. So I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about the ending here. With the ending and stuff, I hated the reveal. Like, the whole idea of him getting the blunt injury was caused by the cult, like the initiation, makes zero sense. It makes zero sense objectively of like, so you want to injure someone. Like, the thing is, as they showed at the beginning, he already is aware of Isaiah. He does not need to be injured to get him to go over there. If anything, him being injured goods going there makes zero sense, because again, it's like you have injured goods versus all he had to do was be like, hey, Isaiah would like to, you're a young talent, Isaiah would like to look at you. Like, there's no reason to have that injury be revealed. Like, the trailer made you think that he gets the injury through football, and that is more compelling. That to me is more compelling. He gets the injury naturally, and he decides to ignore it because he doesn't want to lose this opportunity. So when the reveal that's like, oh no, the injury happened because the cult wanted it to happen, I'm like, well, that's kind of dumb. Why would you damage the person you want to do? What if he hadn't gone ahead with it? What if he didn't do anything? Well, you just lost your the person you're trying to do, because as they shown, the dad basically signed the deal a long time ago to try to make Cam be the next Isaiah and stuff. So why would you have why would you injure Cam like that, hoping he would ignore that and decide to still go see Isaiah when you could have just naturally he's already been implanted. Isaiah is a god. So he's automatically he's not going to say no to Isaiah uninjured. So why would you injure him to get him to go there?
Anytime you have a cult or an outside entity influencing someone that's normal, there's always a catalyst. This also works in The Wicker Man. Trust me, if you've never seen The Wicker Man, please go watch that. A lot of the elements in this film are also in The Wicker Man. The ideal of the cult.
I've seen The Wicker Man, and
the idea of the cult influencing influencing him at the very ending is to make him vulnerable. He is not a vulnerable character before that moment. He is not. And they already have an end with him going to the Saviors and pushing him to that way with the agent who is taking over his future after his dad passes away.
Yeah.
So there has to be a catalyst. There has to be you have to make the guy vulnerable. In The Wicker Man, also, The Wicker Man, the cop, I can't remember his name. Oh my God, I usually remember the cop's name, who is set upon on a child disappearance to go to Summerisle for no apparent reason other than someone tells him to go there, is pretty much it. But if he didn't get that catalyst, he would never go to Summerisle and never be a victim to the people at on Summerisle in The Wicker Man. It's the same thing here. That is a catalyst, and it sets up the whole ideal by the end that it's, like I said, a folk horror. For me, this is like a neo folk horror movie. It follows that whole kind of ideology, but makes it more of a modern day setting. Most folk horror movies usually have something to do with the culture of land and nature and all that type of stuff. Whereas in this one, it's more or less the cult of football that is surrounding the whole thing. And that's where I saw that from. You have to make the character vulnerable, because at the very beginning, he's not a vulnerable character. He is on a straight trajectory. And if you want him to be part of your so quote unquote cult by the end, you have to have molded his personality in order to accept it, just like accepting the devil's signing over your soul to the devil for a gift or a superpower, whatever the heck you want to call it. You have to sign it over. You have to have a reason to do it. Nobody sell their soul to the devil for no reason. It's always has to be someone has to be wants something really badly, whereas Cam is already in line to be like the number one draft pick. So he can literally go anywhere he wants, pretty much.
Well, again, if you're going to do that, I think injuring him is the least way, because as the Colt show, like Colt has a lot of things. There are easier ways to reduce Cam to being desperate than an injury. You can have it his mom's sake. It could be like his like they're down on money and stuff, like, and the Saviors are offering like the best, like there's other ways that isn't involving him getting injured that you could write in to make him vulnerable, other than, heck, you could have kept the dad alive and have it be where the dad is dying and he needs help paying the medical bills, and that's why Cam, and the Saviors offer the most. And like you just established with Tom can be putting that thing in his brain of like, hey, the Saviors, I think, are going to pay you the most and stuff. So you really need to get in with them. They're going to offer you, like those are more realistic ways to do that, to vulnerabilize Cam. That isn't just, we're going to hit you and we're going to really hope that you don't die from it. Or again, like now you got, because again, it'll be one thing too if they establish that the doctors that Cam saw were fake, and that the doctors had told him like, yeah, you get one more hit that you might die and stuff. Because if that was part of the reveal too, okay, that's fine then. That means that his injury isn't as bad as he thought he was. And again, the cult was making him think his injury was so bad and we're testing him. But from what is established, the doctor's real. So what the doctor says to Cam is factually true, that he basically could die at any point with his head injury, which means that basically the cult just damaged their pupil that they're trying to mold and stuff. It's not like again, with the other examples I gave, where it's like, okay, the money or disease or that's stuff that could be worked with. I mean, he's injured. He has a concussion that could cause brain damage the next time he gets an injury, and you're doing that to someone you want to become the best. That doesn't make any sense, because it'll be different too if Isaiah makes a comment like that happened to him, like. Because as they show later, Isaiah's not the first. He's in a long line. It'll be one thing if that was like maybe a thing. Or if they showed that because throughout the movie, he's getting Isaiah's blood. That's like supposed to be making him better and stuff. And if that actually was having effects where maybe, again, like you saw that his head injury was getting better miraculously from the IV, then it's like, okay, I see the logic. I see... you're okay with injuring him because you know Isaiah's blood's going to heal him, but we never see that. So throughout the entire movie, there's that back of the head thing of, okay, if he gets injured one more time, is he going to die? Because that's a big thing with Cam is he is at any point he could get another head injury, and they literally show the scene where he hit again. It's what's in the trailers. He collides heads, and we see the brains and stuff, which is a great shot the first time it happens, to show that of like, oh, at any moment he could get another head injury, and like the doctor said, he could die and stuff. So why would you risk that?
Because it has to do with the theme of the movie. Going out and doing scenes with a dying relative or anything like that, besides being a really bad cliche, has nothing to do with the theme of the movie, which is football, and how Cam sees and how it is changed his idea of football. It has nothing to do with money. That's why money is not mentioned in this movie. It is no profit, and none of that is mentioned in this movie at all. It does not. The movie does not want that to be an element of the theme of the movie at all. And family,
which is bad, because that's one of the most well documented things about these football players.
But that's not what the movie's trying to do. The movie's not trying to make it about profit. It's not trying to make it about family either. It is football. It is what you are willing to sacrifice about football. So just about every scene has to do something with football. If they take it out of that, then you're missing the reason why they're making the movie. It's making a point about that. It doesn't want to see his family. His family is at the very beginning. You see a couple things, and the last thing you see is him talking to his mom for 2 seconds on the phone that he stole moments from because he wasn't supposed to be on the phone in the first place. And you see nothing else. That's because at that point he has sacrificed everything but football. If we see family members again, then that kind of dilutes what the point of the movie is making. Now I know,
but they use family at the end to threaten him to sign when he is not sure if he's going to sign. They go, well, if you don't sign, we'll kill your family. Yeah. So if it's not about family, then like why should he care?
No, because they only want to know what he ultimately is putting above family. If he puts football above family, he's going to sign it, regardless. If they have achieved their goal, which is making him put football above everything else doesn't matter. It doesn't matter with the threats. But obviously, what happens is something else clicks in him, and it isn't that. But among the treatment he's been taking from Isaiah, the moment that he kills Isaiah is the moment in which everything changes for him as a character, and he doesn't drink the Kool-Aid and become the next Isaiah.
So going to that, and this is another big criticism for me with the movie, is I hate the cinematography. The problem with it is too gimmicky with the cinematography. The first time you see like the X-ray shot when they collide, great. But then they do it 2 or 3 more times throughout the movie. Yeah. And then they do other things like that, where they do other elements. And like the big fight between Cam and Isaiah, it was just, it's like, oh, well, we can't just film Isaiah and Cam fighting. That's too boring. So we're going to do the shaky cam, and we're going to occasionally go to like the orange filter and stuff to make it look more interesting. And it was distracting. It got distracting to a point, because it's like originally with the X-ray, you were saying something. You were showing that moment impacted. But then you do it 2 or 3 more times, well, the scene doesn't impact anymore because I've already seen it once. Why am I seeing it again? Because especially now, back in that first scene, it meant something because you were seeing the injury both of them basically just did to their heads, especially the guy who ends up convulsing and stuff.
Yeah.
So why am I seeing it again when that time that X-ray scenes happen, they don't mean anything. And then when you do the orange filter, it doesn't mean anything because at this point it comes off as, for me, it comes off as baby's first talk, like, oh, hey guys, it's a lot of times I think when I see filmmakers do it, I think they get too excited like, oh, I found this thing. Oh, that looks so cool. And they try to put it in as much as they can during the movie, even when times I think it doesn't make sense. And it distracts. It distracts more than enhances.
For you?
And that's how, for me, it distracted more than enhanced.
Interesting. That's interesting. I didn't see it like that at all. I could see how that happens because it annoys certain film audience members when Tarantino puts way too many feet shots in his movies, and it doesn't mean anything to the story of the movie. It's just because Quentin Tarantino loves to put feet shots in his movies all the time. Yeah. Like I see that as a stylistic thing from the filmmaker. The same with I'm watching Spike Lee puts his dollying shot with the characters to make it look like they're walking when they're not walking. It's in every one of his movies, and some movies it's in more than once. I think he gets used to now just doing it once, but I think some of his earlier movies he did them multiple times. That's a filmmaking thing for me. As a filmmaker, I gotta give some filmmakers those type of leeways. They don't mean shit for the story. They don't. They are a stylistic choice that filmmakers make over and over, and sometimes I do believe, like you say, they may use them, overuse them. I think it's a personal viewer choice if they get overused or not, or if they draw too much attention to themselves. I never noticed the feet shots in Quentin Tarantino's film until someone pointing it out. It just never bothered me. But I did notice the Spike Lee shot, which is why I mentioned these two filmmakers, because I used to get annoyed by that angle because it just never meant anything to me until years later.
Yeah,
I read about Spike Lee. So it's a filmmaking thing in my opinion. But yeah, I can see why it gets annoying if it's done a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. So it just, and I hate it because I like I like the moment I liked when it was used effectively. It's just it reminds me of another movie. I think actually I don't think I talked about this when we did the episode with us about the I've Got Five on it. That was example of how like the first time it came up, I'm like, oh, this is good. The second it came up, I was like, oh, this is good. By the end of the movie, he used it like 5 or 6 times, and it was like, okay, this is getting a little excessive, and stuff. It's distracting and is lowering the quality of the first couple times you do it. And the same thing with this movie. It's like, again, it becomes too distracting when you do it too often. It doesn't make it feel unique anymore because, well, you did it 3 or 4 times, so why should I be impressed anymore when it happens?
I recognize that same thing in Us, but it didn't bother me in Us. And that I believe you are absolutely right on the fact that some of this stuff does bother audience members. Especially like I don't know this filmmaker. Like one of the first things I said, I don't know this filmmaker. I've never seen anything he's ever done before this.
Same. This is his second film, so
yeah. So it's the second film, and so I don't have an idea of what his style is yet. So I don't have an opinion on that. I would have to wait years from now when he's developed more films to figure out his style, like I did with Spike Lee. When I started recognizing that shot was in his early films, and I was like, it was something that annoyed me until now. Now I pretty much love most of everything Spike Lee does because I can recognize him as an amazing filmmaker and storyteller. I was not as forgiving when I was a young kid watching his earlier movies. I am much more forgiving now. And that could be one of the reasons why I'm much more forgiving for a lot of elements in this film, because we briefly discussed some of my thoughts on this film in regards to the folk horror or neo. I'm going to call it neo folk horror movies out there because we all love folk horror. I mean, everything from, or at least I do. I don't know if everyone else, because I don't think we've talked about any on the show actually. Between the Wicker Man and Midsummer and Ritual, and I mean, there's so many of them out there. Clear Cut, there's so many of them out there. But what they don't usually do is do it in a modern day aesthetics, not modern day setting, because a lot of these are modern day settings, but they still have those aesthetics that are based on old traditional religious beliefs. And this one is not so much a old religious belief. It is a new one, which is the cult around football. And I really, really love the fact that what they revealed at the end with the Isaiah character is that this is something that's been passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation as something that is so old as time that it's the deal that the Saviors has made with the devil in order to be the top team. And it is something that's just passed down from generation to generation, and it will continue to be done so. I like those aspects. And so I liked what the costume designs that everyone was wearing in the very final scene, because it reminded me 100% of a folk horror film. Like if you wanted to have something, a theme or a look that made it stand out as a folk horror, it is what they are wearing at the end of this film. It is their costume. It's the way they are acting. This is literally you don't know any of these elements unless you're really looking at them. As a folk horror film until you see that last act in this film with everyone dressed up and they are all playing a part for this.
Yeah,
and that contract that Cam is signing is his contract to the devil without him knowing it's the devil. The Saviors have made a contract. It's a passed down contract with the devil is what he's signing his life away for.
Yeah, which I did not like the ending. I like everything you just said. The idea of like literally like again the reveal of that this is passed down and stuff, is transmitted through bloodline and stuff, and even the him sign, like literally this, he has to step into a pentagram to sign the contract and stuff. If people didn't realize about, again, like the cultistness of it, what I didn't like was the tone, in my opinion, a tonal shift with the movie of when Cam decides to not sign and he decides to kill them all. And for me, the movie generally was in a grounded kind of area, a little bit mythical, but generally it was, it felt grounded. Nothing felt too over the top. When you got to the end there, it was way too over the top. When he pulls out the sword and he starts killing them, and what it reminded me of the tone of Ready or Not a little bit, of like suddenly it's just everyone's gushing blood. You have a character actually kill themselves, like, which was extremely stupidly random. And then literally the Tom character gets basically exploded, which directly made me think of Ready or Not with that sequence and stuff. But he goes in and he kills all the cult leaders with the sword. Well, I say cult leaders, but they're the savior like owners and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just, for me, it was like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at the end with Leonardo DiCaprio with the Maryland family, of like how it just immediately switched over to a different tone completely, where it wasn't that goofy before, but now it's super goofy. And that's how I felt with that ending of stuff, where he just kills them all and it just becomes really goofy.
And this is where we talked again about earlier about my ideas about the neo folk horror, and the two of the other films I want to mention that I have not mentioned yet, which I thought I would, is the remake of Suspiria and the Rob Zombie's The Lords of Salem. Two films that kind of go. A lot of people think that the endings of both of those films go overboard. But the ideal behind going overboard is because it's so subtle for the earlier parts of it. And so and this one, because it's done in bright sunlight too. It's a bright day scene. Like, it's brighter than any other scene in the entire film. I can get why you say it feels a little weird and odd, because there is no other scene in this film that is as bright as this scene is filmed. I do believe that is 100% deliberate for that reason. But it, unlike like Lords of Salem, which the main character actually succumbs to the cult, the witches, and everything else in that film. By the end of Suspiria, if you haven't seen Suspiria, the remake anyways, the tables are turned on the witches in that one for what they believe. But it is a complete bloodbath. Like, that entire film, you see some unsettling stuff in Suspiria remake. It is a complete and utter bloodbath by the third act. And that's where my parallels to this film comes in. It is a complete bloodbath at the end of this movie. But for the first hour and 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes of this movie, it's very subtle. Like, you could almost say it's almost not a horror film. It's not even, the images of all the craziness that Cam sees isn't even as extreme as the original Adrian Lyne version of Jacob's Ladder, which goes batshit crazy by the time you get to the end of it. And Jacob is seeing all these weird images throughout the entire movie that throws you off until the very end. This movie is really fucking subtle. Like, I think that those X-ray shots are there specifically just to jar the audience. There are a couple jump scares, which I wasn't. I mean, to be honest with you, I think the only one that surprised me was the first one when Cam gets hit in the back of the head, because that was not something I was really expecting at all that early in the fucking movie. I was not expecting something like that. But for the most part, everything else that happens is very subtle and not as bloodletted as the end of this movie is.
Yeah, I mean, we have like small moments of blood, like again when during the quarterback scene where the guy's constantly getting hit in the face with the football and stuff. Like, that was a pretty bloody scene, and obviously you have the moment in the sauna where a fan gets killed, and then you have another moment when like Cam basically caused the guy to like convulse and stuff with the X-ray shot moment where he and stuff. Like, those were the small moments, but they were not over the top versus the ending where it feels like a wholly different movie and stuff to me. Like, personally, it felt like a different movie.
It looked like a different movie. I don't know what the filmmakers intention for making films have that type of ending, because so many modern day films, I will say modern day films, because if you watch older films like The Wicker Man, they don't have those over the top type endings like that. But nowadays modern day filmmakers believe they have to have these huge, elaborate, over the top endings in order to give the audience a bang for their buck. It's an aesthetic of modern day filmmaking. It doesn't even matter if it's a fucking romantic comedy. Romantic comedies have to have a big bang for their buck ending nowadays, whereas you can get away with a very subtle ending back in the 80s and early 90s. You can't do that today. So I can, even with Us or Nope, you have to have these big elaborate endings to end the movie that up until that point was more subtle, was more refined. I don't know why filmmakers do that. I really don't. I would love to know. I would love to ask the filmmakers why they do that. It could be a monetary thing. It could be a studio interference thing. Who the hell knows? And we don't know if this film, Him, had to go through rewrites or had to go through reshoots.
It did. So they actually, there's two. They actually released them online now, so you can watch them. But they actually had two different endings. One ending was the bad ending, which I felt that they filmed that just to film it, where basically it is Cam does sign the contract. So Cam signs the contract, And then we cut to Isaiah, who is revealed to have survived, and he's watching he's watching TV as Cam wins the Super Bowl with the Saviors, and this Isaiah is basically in this like kind of in like a like this mental home essentially and stuff. He's scarred all over and stuff, and it's just and that's kind of like the bad ending where Cam does sign. Another ending that was filmed was and it's not clear of this would this take over the killing like him. I do know. So in it, Cam doesn't kill them. He just walks away. And then they show later that he joins another football team and wins the championship and stuff. And then and then kind of like in a not Interstellar, Dream Within a Dream movie.
Dream. I don't know. There's a lot of those, dude.
Sorry.
Give me an actor.
Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Inception.
Inception. Thank you. And
Give me that.
They have an Inception moment at the end where basically Cam looks and sees a football just spinning just unnaturally, and the Cam is kind of like he may not have sold his soul to these people, but he may have sold his soul to someone else, or maybe he's still, he is still being sought by the, by the forces and stuff.
Well,
so
go ahead.
I understand why you wouldn't do the bad ending with him signing and stuff. I think that would be, I don't think that would be a well received one. It's funny they even shot that in the first place. But the other one is interesting, and I think you're right. I think it probably was a studio thing where again they were like, that doesn't sound as like a bombastic ending of him just walking away and stuff. So they were like, no, we need to have what it comes up to me is sometimes filmmakers will have we want a good bow ending. Like we want to like the good triumphs over the evil, and not in just like natural way, like, okay, they say no, they learn their lesson, kind of like with the alternate one when he joins another team and stuff. It's like, no, we've got to make sure we kill the bad guys, that the bad people have to die and stuff. We can't leave them alive and stuff. That's not a true good ending.
I think that the main point is that they have to make it where Cam does not pick football as the number one thing on his brain. It's not football, family, then God. If you show him walking away and then playing with another team, the audience still figures out that football is still his number one. There's no break with that. Football definitely is not number one to him. They have to have that break in order for the whole theme of the movie to work. And so we don't need to see him sign for another team. We just need to know that he's destroyed the ideal that football is number one. He doesn't care about football more than he cares about family or God or even himself. And that's why we just need to see him walk away. And we don't need to see anything else. Everyone associated with that football league and association are dead. And that's what we need to see, that every ideal of football being above everything else is gone. Now, is it extreme that he kills everybody? Yeah, but it has to happen because you leave one of them alive, then you leave the possibility that football could creep back in to be the number one. The way it ends now, it is not. We don't see a happy resolution right now. We literally see him forsaking football by the end of the film. Which is what I liked. I know there's gonna be some people out there, and I've only read some of the reviews that hated the ending of this movie. There is a lot of people who hated, like they were expecting something else other than that to be the ending to the movie. I can understand that. Folk movies do not make money. They don't.
This movie did not do well.
No, I don't know. It's one of those subgenres of horror that is well respected but never makes money. It took forever for them to make the sequel to The Wicker Man, The Wicker Tree, which eventually came out, I don't know, 40 fucking years after the original. The Ritual, which is amazing, and I don't know which year this one is, and I know there's a ton of movies called The Ritual now. But the folk horror Ritual was fucking amazing, and only people noticed about it after the fact, after more people had seen it streaming than went to the theater or saw it on POV. It had to live on streaming. Things like Suspiria, the remake, did decent, got great reviews, but it hid those elements within a witch story, and it was a remake. Remakes, that was still helpful to be a remake. But Lords of Salem, even with Rob Zombie's name on it, did not do well. I did not do well. The folk horror movies don't do well. They're really respected on the hindsight. And like the filmmakers said, or not the filmmakers, the actors said, I can't remember. I think it was the main actors, both said that they just believe that this film needs time for it to find its audience. They believe that I wish I could remember which actor actually said this, but it's out there. I can't remember which one.
I mean, Marlon Wayans has come out a lot about hitting back at the criticism of the movie.
Yeah,
so it probably was him.
Yeah, he plainly said that it's a film that they believe will be better served once people have had time to see it and digest it. And that's how I feel about all folk horror. I don't think any of them do well. It takes a while. The Ritual was, in my opinion, critics loved it when it came out. The audiences didn't see it until years later when people finally bought it. And it didn't have any big stars in it either. But the reveal at the end, the monster at the end of Ritual was fucking phenomenal. I was like, damn, that's how you do a folk horror movie in this day and age. I still haven't seen Midsommar, but Midsommar did not do extremely well. I think it did okay. It's well regarded, extremely well regarded, as one of the premier folk horror films in the last decade. But I still haven't, unfortunately.
Midsommar did well. It was a box office success.
Yeah, well, how much though? Because you keep saying that, and I keep wondering how much that is. Is it?
It made $49 million off a $9 million budget.
Okay, so that, but that's to be realistic. That's still not like a whole lot of money for a horror movie either. Thankfully, it didn't cost much. And it had Florence. I'm gonna say your name fucking wrong. Florence Pugh in it. Jesus, gosh. Which I love that actress, and I still can't believe I haven't seen it because I love that fucking actress. I should shoot.
I need to see that because all of my Ari Aster movies I've seen, I've hated.
I've loved all of his movies, and I just missed this one because I want to see the director's cut. And so I had put off seeing it so I could see the director's cut. That's the only reason why I put it off. But getting back to him, this has been a very kind of interesting conversation because of our differing views on it. And I already knew going in that we're going to have these type of views because so many people do. And it's not a straightforward horror film. It's not a straightforward football film. And so it's going to have a hard time finding an audience. I know a lot of my friends were not interested in it because it was a horror film. They'll go see a football film, but they didn't want to see a horror football film. And I think a lot of my friends my horror friends didn't see it because they don't want to see a football film. I don't truly know what it's great that someone decided to take a chance on a horror football film. I can't recall of any other film out there like it.
It's I mean, honestly, that's what I guess for me frustrates me a lot because it's like when you really think about it, there's again and we haven't talked a little bit more about the religiousness with football in this. I mean, there's a moment they literally recreate the Last Supper and stuff. They really, again, there is a lot like the script. There's a lot to the script that is good. Of again, use a horror football. Honestly, should work really well, and I think. And again, for you it did, for me it didn't as much and stuff. But honestly, it's crazy that this did not again, it's a smart idea. It really is.
Horror sports movies don't They are really rare and far in between. I'm trying to think of another sports horror film off the top of my head, and I can't think of one.
There's not a lot.
Yeah, I can't think of another horror sports film. Um, I can't. Uh,
There's really not.
Unless you want to call, ice skiers with the movie Iced, which no one remembers. That's about the closest I can think of. Can't think of any sports horror film. It's not a genre that would ever typically be.
There's some campy ones
Well, there won't be. It's not like a genre that would be like a green light by a studio. Like a studio wants a traditional football film. It's why we get so many films that feel like Remember the Titans. Like there's so many movies that are that is the exact same story in so many fucking different movies. So many and football movies as well. It's like they only know how to make one story with sports, and it works. It works really well, and they're profitable, and they keep making them, and so they don't stop. Like this one, I mean, like we've discussed in other podcast episodes, sci-fi horror doesn't work for general audiences unless it's related to the Alien and Predator franchise. I'm sorry, they don't work for profit wise. And the problem also is that sci-fi horror is expensive. So it has to make money in order to justify the cost. You name any great sci-fi horror film, they all tanked at the box office, but they become cult movies. From John Carpenter's The Thing to Event Horizon, these are all cult movies. They did not make money at the box office because it's a genre that general audiences just don't flock to go see. And this one, they tried to sell it as Jordan Peele's so badly, it still didn't work. Still didn't work. If it had been Jordan Peele directing it, it may have. I'm not gonna say it wouldn't have. It's still a big selling point, but it didn't. It didn't work. And it's a shame because we could see other sports horror type of films if it had worked. Until then, we'll get more Screams and more I Know What You Did Last Summer reboots and other reboots of stories that should have been buried years and decades ago now. With that, are there any other thoughts you would like to bring upon the audience with him, Philip?
No, I mean that's pretty much it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really wish I got to enjoy it more, and stuff because again, like on paper, the concepts are really interesting and stuff. It's just again for me, it's just, it just didn't do anything for me.
So you're bringing up something I actually want to bring to light for a lot of audience members that listen to this listen to this podcast. And this is something that the reason why I have so many different types of guests on this show is to get different perspectives for movies, especially for diverse movies like this one here. What I love to do is to get different types of people's opinions on films. Some of the people who come on the show have a background in critique and analysis of films. That means, for the bad part, like myself, and I am ready to admit this, that they have read too much shit about the history of film, and they have reference points for stuff like that, like I did in this conversation today. Whereas your casual film lover does not have that reference point, which means that we will have some really good and diverse opinions about the film. That being said, there are also people out there who don't respect the genre and then look down upon it. Thankfully, we do not do that on this show, even when we find a film that we don't always like. We always try and find elements of the film that we do like and wish that were enhanced more. And we hope that you all out there listening to our podcast will get some of those ideals out. And the best way to do that is when we have these type of opinions on a film that are not cohesive with one another. The only way to learn and to understand and to enjoy films is to actually be open-minded to different ideals from different people and to take them in and relay them and use them as you see fit as a film viewer and a film lover. We are all horror film lovers here on Conversations in Horror. We hope all of you listening are horror film lovers. That does not mean you have to like everything that we review on the show. And we know that you will not like everything we review on our show. With that, I want to thank you, Philip, for joining us on this episode of Conversations of Horror. And for everyone listening, what we like to do at the end of our episode is we love to rate the film according to our scale of 1 to 5. And we like to attribute our ratings to a particular object, quote, or saying in the film. Where on the spectrum, Philip, would you like to put him, and what object, quote, or saying would you like to use as your attribution?
I would do a 1.5 bloody noses, bloody footballs out of 5.
I see. This is where I tell you, we're gonna be very different because I'm gonna give it a 4.5 spinning football that never stops. I'm actually glad you mentioned that because I almost forgot to mention that myself because it reminded me of the scene in Nope where the little shoe is straight up in the air. I'm like, oh, if they just had that shoe spinning, I could see where Jordan Peele said, "Oh, you gotta do something cool, like the thing just sitting straight up." I did think that was a really cool shot there. And that's how you know you're not exactly in Kansas anymore when you see that spinning football that just keeps going and going and going.
Oh yeah, I mean they had that in the original, in one of the alternate endings. They had the spinning football.
All right, with that, I hope that you all have enjoyed this episode of Conversations in Horror. We hope that you will check out all of our previous episodes. We have actually done episodes on all of the Jordan Peele films, so please make sure to check those out. Make sure to also check out our other podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which delves deep into Hammer Studio films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and our other podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast. That one is about comic books, manga, and graphic novels, and you have to be a subscriber or follower in order to listen to that podcast. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, we want to wish you a pleasant day, and please make sure to wear your helmet when you play football so you don't start seeing shit and thinking you're being initiated for a cult. Thank you and have a great day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.